Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am your host, Charlie Shrem, and you're listening and watching another epic episode of The Charlie Shrem Show, where together, you and I, we get to dive down this amazing rabbit hole and have fun with so many great guests Bitcoin, crypto, everything in between AI, hackers, friend tech, whatever. Like we've been there, films, Hollywood. By the way, we released another film. You guys have been seeing it all over my social media probably. It's called Trauma Therapy Psychosis. It's on Apple TV and everywhere else. It's starring my wife, Courtney, who's an amazing actor, and Hannah New and the late Tom Sizemore, and some other amazing actors. And there have been a lot going on in the crypto space lately, especially in Bitcoin. Uh, Bitcoin Improvement Protocol 300 has been getting a lot of attention lately. We had Paul Stork, the creator of the Bitcoin Improvement Protocol 300 back in 2014, but we had him on the show recently. He's the creator of Layer 2 Labs and Drive Chains. And I'm like very optimistic on the ability to uh, upgrade Bitcoin in a soft fork way without having to force anyone who's not done the upgrade to force them into it. Reverse, compatibility is very important for Bitcoin. In such a great change like this, where you can have multiple layers of security, multiple layers of opportunity, smart contracts without breaking the Bitcoin main chain, is pretty cool. We're gonna have people on the show that kind of like show us different sides of it too. I've been playing a lot around with friend tech lately. I know it's on Ethereum, but it's actually on the base chain, Coinbase. What's interesting about the base chain is that Binance taught us through BNB when they first launched. Now Binance Smart Chain is now called, I think, just Smart Chain or something. But at first, it showed us that blockchains can be maybe launched in a way where you have stewards like businesses or people that kind of help guide it to decentralization and eventually let it go. So what's interesting is we'll see how Base does. They're kind of trying to be like the app store for blockchains where anyone can develop and be on it, but there's a certain set of standards. So you prevent like hacks from happening in the future. It's like the early days of the internet versus how we have the internet now. When we download apps on our computer or on our phones, we don't have to really worry about virus scanning and things like that. Speaking of which, we do. So I'm so wrong about that because one of the guests on the show today, we have two amazing guests today. Ross Plummer from Yokai, who comes from the hacker world. He's comes from the ability to. We were just talking how there's a new Apple upgrade where they had the ability to break into our phones and come in there and through like a text message. And there was an upgrade that came out the last second, and we were just talking about that. You guys will hear about it in a second. So it's really exciting. He's the Yokai, the company, has been developing and pivoting secretly for the last year, and they're just launching now. He's the CEO, and what they're doing is like providing a cross-platform, decentralized method for hackers to get paid for in real time testing to see if like applications or websites can be broken or hacked into. So they're doing it for good, but real people are doing it in real time across all different platforms. So you have like GitHub and Microsoft and all these places where the hackers unite. And so he incentivized everyone, and it's really cool. It's like a swarm. And yokai actually means like fluidity, like the flow in ghosts. So we talked about that too. And then we had Anjali Young. She's super cool because she runs this company called Collab.land, and the company is widely recognized as the creator of token gating a couple of years ago. So many communities are run using Collab.land, like Adidas, McLaren, World of Women, Pudgy Penguins, Doodles, Bankless DAO. Admins can create communities across like 24 different layer ones and layer twos using like fungible tokens and NFTs. So between Ross and Anjali, you got two people managing like millions of people between hackers and collaborators and NFT owners and crypto people. So on one side you have like people complaining that, oh, Bitcoin and crypto is like the lowest of the low, the price needs catalysts and stuff like that. Crypto trading is at a 4-year low, search interest is at a 4-year low. But I think anyone who's smart sees those as contrarian indicators to what's really happening in the crypto space, especially in Bitcoin. So my friends, buckle up. I'll see you in an hour from now as we wrap up the show. We have a very special guest joining us today, someone who's been at the forefront of online communities since the early days of the internet. Please welcome my guest, Anjali Young. Anjali, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Charlie. It's a pleasure to talk to you and talk about all things Web3.
You're the co-founder of Collab.land. Your journey is as diverse as it is inspiring. From your early days as a member and leader in online communities back in 1993, you've gone from roles as like lawyer, professor, tech startup employee. You've been a true pioneer in the crypto space. You have a huge passion for NFTs, art, Web3 ethos. It's shaped your vision. It seems like you guys have been like understanding the why Bitcoin and crypto are important too, following kind of your company. And which is interesting is that your company is not just a community or a tool, it's a movement. You guys are the creators, one of the pioneers of what we now know is like token gating, a concept that has allowed over 50,000 online communities to curate membership based on specific tokens. It was really cool. I was checking out your website and going through everything that you guys do, and it's like I need to do this for my community. But you allow communities on 24 different layer ones or layer twos. Everyone calls them ZKEVM, the new lingo now, uh, using fungible tokens and NFTs. But it allows people to like create different administrative roles and be part of this like whole community. And you manage big names like Adidas, McLaren, World of Women, and many more. Uh, you've also earned recognition from Salesforce on their Web3 advisory board, so you totally understand everything that's been going on. So all the listeners, we're going to dive into this journey. Sit back, relax, and join us for this great conversation. Really, like I want to kind of there's so many different angles to go here and places to start. I don't even know where, but I guess when doing the research for this show and kind of like when we were creating the thought process, what really struck close to me is that I got into Bitcoin for the community. Literally, I tell people it was Bitcoin, the financial instrument, and it was the whole thing. It was really cool, and I explained to people what Bitcoin is and why I got really excited about it. But what really was for me was at the time the community was forums and message boards, and it was just filled with like misfits and everything because the rest of the world still wasn't on these online communities yet. Like right now, everyone is a member of the social world, the social internet world. But back then, people weren't, right?
Absolutely. And that's really been true. That's my journey as well. Like when I first started with BBSs and like dialing into
Oh yeah.
community with my modem back in 93, it was like, who are these people? There are people that want to connect in this digital form from all over the place, all different interests. But what I know is they're interested in technology. And that's what brought us together. So it was being able to be kind of wacky, be different. First time you really got to have freedom from
Yeah.
your flesh suit, is what I call it. Just a second, I have to cough. I'm so sorry.
No, no, no worries. No worries. But now it's like you're not just living in these online communities, you're also creating them and working within them at the same time.
Well, that's been a whole other joy on its own. I mean, being a part of online communities and watching the transition over the decades, like this has been the opportunity to be at the ground floor of a brand new type of online community. And really now our worlds are online and IRL together. Like there's very different there's not much difference in what we do online versus what we're doing in real life. Oftentimes, our relationships start online and then move to IRL, or our relationships are IRL and then they also are intertwined online as well. So it's like we live in both places simultaneously now. And so, having the
Hmm.
ability to be a part of this new type of community that includes ownership, right? That includes some actual financial element to it. It's kind of like the last step. Like, we have this online world, this nation that we're kind of creating online, and now it has this money element to it. It's
Like
like
relationship mapping.
absolutely, and it has real world connection. It's like now you can have a person on one side of the world, right, be a part of a community, and somebody else like in another part of the world, and they don't even know each other in any other way. They don't have any other relationship with each other, but they both have this shared financial asset. And that shared financial asset, it's just like what you said. Like, why did you get involved with Bitcoin? It was for the community. It wasn't for the money, but the money aspect of it drew people together into that community. And so once you get there, what relationship grows, and what we saw from Collab.land is like trust can come as the result of a transaction. It's no longer the way it was previously, which is you needed to know somebody. I needed to know Charlie and I needed to be have some sort of relationship already, and then we would maybe move into a transactional relationship together. Now, for the first time, people are kind of entering into a transactional relationship from the beginning, and then from that transactional relationship they're getting to build a relationship. So it's been really quite revolutionary in many ways. People that were not able to be in the same social circles at all before, there would have been no opportunity for them to interconnect,
Good point.
now are.
Good
So
point.
it's just been a really beautiful thing. And then, on the housekeeping side of it, like being a part of online communities, you have to deal with trolls. I don't know if you've ever been a
Yeah.
modder and admin of yeah, troll management. Troll
That was
management.
one of my first jobs in the online communities as a kid was I would be on these forums like Cyber Extreme and such, and I would like just volunteer as to be moderator of just a specific like sub forum to start, but eventually leading my way to become like administrator of some of these sites.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. And so, like modding a huge group is extremely difficult, and you don't know who's actually interested and invested and who is not really, who's there just to cause trouble. And now with token gating, that was one of the first unlocks for me that I saw practically, which is like, who's a holder. You know now who's actually got skin in the game with your community. And if somebody is not verifying, is not proving that they have ownership,
Yeah.
or they're in it, then it's like you can now decide how much importance you're going to give them. It's not going to be the same situation where you have to manage all of this influx of negativity, comments, input from people that may not be actually invested.
What you
So,
just described is like the true vision of how Satoshi kind of like created the original Bitcoin community because we all had that common bond in the Bitcoin forums and chat rooms that we all knew that we all were holders of Bitcoin, and that the people that would come in and troll us, like there was Buttcoin and there was these different uh, there was this big hacking group that at the time, early on in the Bitcoin days, didn't like Bitcoin. They were called something awful, I think they were called, big hacking group. And they just attacked Bitcoin for the first. And so all the first early years of Bitcoin were just like us as an online community, like uh, defending ourselves. And then we had Cosby Coin, which was this huge hack on the Bitcoin Talk forum in the early days that where we were all hacked. And there were multiple times over and over again where communities would come in and like try to take over our community. But I had a lot of experience in that because I had built some of these other communities before, online communities. And so we could like the beauty of this community at the time and why the Bitcoin community grew to like crypto where it is today was that Bitcoin community, we all knew that we were holders of Bitcoin. There was like a financial instrument, like it was a transactional relationship.
that's right. And it really, where we put our money is where we are putting our attention. And so at the end of the day, everyone that's holding Bitcoin is giving attention to the same thing that you're giving attention to. And so it's that combined attention that keeps you together, and is a motivator to work together, innovate together, collaborate together. Like it's such a springboard for so much more. So for us, that was really the first unlock. Collab.land started as a DAO tool. And why did we need it as a DAO tool? Well, because of COVID. COVID came, and now people that were meeting together in the DAO space at actual conferences couldn't meet together in real life, meet space is what they call. And so for us, we're like, all right, let's come up with something where we can get our community together. And how do you do that? Well, see if they have the online asset. Now we have the blockchain. We're all able to read the blockchain to see who has what and who owns what. Like everyone can see it. We can all know. Let's use that as a way to determine who gets to be in the community. And that was the initial. spark for where Collab.land came from. And then, with COVID happening and all types of groups being closed down, all types of real life places being closed down, people were searching for other ways to connect. And it was really a right time, right place kind of situation where our little DAO tool became what it is today, which has sparked an entire cottage industry, is considered a primitive for crypto now, token gating. Like, you buy a token and what do you get with it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, now I have it. What now? It's not just holding the token. It's what's the access? What's the group? Who are the other people? I need to know what's the community here. Like, that concept of really what's the community and how do I join that community and how do I use my blockchain asset as a membership into a community, came from COVID and came from Collab.land being there at that time.
Do you want blockchains to reach out to you now when they're building themselves to make sure that they have what it takes per se? Does that make sense?
We have community or blockchains coming to us that don't have community culture already happening on their blockchains. And so they're like, how do we build a community culture? Well, without a token gating service, you're not going to do that. But so we do have conversations with them about how to get started. We had actually just onboarded our 25th blockchain, which was near blockchain
Oh
recently.
wow.
But the blockchains come to us because they see how important community is and they want to know how to get there. How do we
Oh, interesting.
attract people to build on our chain and to build communities on our chain? And that's been really super gratifying. And again, like what you said, which is community's always been the onboarding, right? Community was
Yeah.
onboarding for you, but community as a way to onboard, it's really this last cycle where people got to see the power of it, right? With like Bored Ape or Bankless or whatever, any of these big communities. Like, you see community and how community can be such a huge force in moving your whatever you're trying to do forward. So now blockchains see it more. The ones in the beginning that did were more innovative and thinking, looking at NFTs really closely initially as membership
Yeah.
tokens, but not all of them. But still, we have blockchains approaching us and wanting to have some sort of like community management tools
Well,
for their chain.
it's kind of funny because a lot of people that we talk to that get it, but a lot of people that get it that don't get it, they understand that even if they don't understand like what's happening under the hood, they knew that their kids were playing just video games on PlayStation earlier, and now they know that their kids are participating in these communities where they're
Yep.
holding these tokens, and the parents know, they understand baseball cards, they understand that these things that can, you know, create value together, and I think that is like such a watershed moment in how the next generation is kind of like growing up now. Uh, but at the same time, I have to take the other side. I'm already someone who is like, I feel like sometimes I look at relationships in a very transactional way, and I don't think it's the right way to live life. You guys have homeschooled your kids, and so you like you have a lot of influence, and you understand the perspective of like community building at such like a young age, especially for kids in the digital age. How do we build communities but not raise kids to be transactional? Because it's like that's not the right way to live.
Well, it's interesting because my son, I have a 15-year-old, and he plays Minecraft and he plays Roblox and he plays a lot of these sandbox games. And I ask him, like, what does that day in the life look like? He's like, well, first I go to Discord and I talk about what I want to build that day. And I see if anybody else is interested in building something with me that day. And then
Hmm.
we plan out what we're going to do. And we talk about, who's going to be responsible for what. And then we join my private server and we build it together. That's one way. Other times he says when he has like deep work time, he'll go to his own secret places and build things on his own and test things out and try things out. So it's like there really isn't a difference. Like, at some point, they're going to
Crazy.
incorporate money into that, right? Working together, because that's what we're all doing. You and I are talking over Zoom. Um, our whole team is
Interesting.
distributed. We're all working independently. Like, I don't know if our children are going to have this separation. They're going to see their social life and like friend life and transaction life transactional life where they're working together, like they're going to see a much more of a merge of that. You're going to work with people you like. You're going to work with people that work well with you. You're going to be blending this play and work together. They're at a whole other level. I will tell you that, Charlie. Like,
It's like so above comprehension sometimes. It's really, it's crazy. There's an episode, you know the show Black Mirror?
yeah, of course, yes.
So there's an episode in one of the first or second season where they go to an island, and it's like an island without cell phones or any like any technology. And I remember watching that. It's like, why would someone want to live there? And now I'm like, I would have a second home there if I could, on an
Mm-hmm.
island that just didn't allow any technology, computers or phones or anything. But it's not just about like going there for a week. It's full-time residents who make their lives around non-technology. That's it doesn't exist anymore.
No, I mean, there are places where it does. My daughter, I homeschooled her until eighth grade, but she went to a Waldorf high school. She actually just graduated last month. And they don't have any technology. They use the total old ways, going out and all non-technology. So there are communities that do that, but it's definitely not the norm. And I don't know how well that will serve them moving forward because so much of the way we're all living and working in communicating together and learning about what's important to each other is happening online. So there's definitely it's good to have a foundation of the classics and they would go up into the mountains for 2 weeks and just focus on Hamlet. Like they were,
Oh,
it was a
interesting.
totally opposite of what is happening in traditional schools now. It's a traditional way of like they'll go river rafting and volunteer on reservations, and so it's like all non-tech, but you're learning life lessons. But I think there has to be some way to accept the fact that our world is a global world. Now we have a global culture at a time where we didn't have a global culture before. And the only way for us to participate in this global culture is to be online together. Like, how else am I going to learn about what's necessarily popular in Nigeria or what people are concerned about in
True
Sri
story.
Lanka?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you have to be online, and that's been actually a really amazing, honestly. Like when I think about even our team, the Collab.land team, like our culture as a team, it's like so much of our culture is shared because it's an online culture. Like the same memes, right? Like we're following maybe the same people online. We're
Probably, yeah.
sharing the same videos. It's like it's a culture that sits on top of all of the world's individual cultures. And to participate in that, you do need to be online.
Do you think
So
that term online is that going to change for us in the near future? The way we like, I have a computer, you have a computer or a phone or whatever, and then there's this. You think this will change? Will we all be using some AR hardware in the future, or like, and how will that affect things?
yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, my journey with online communities or digital communities started with text. And here I am 30 years
True
later,
story.
we're still doing text. Like it's still, in that way, Discord and Telegram are feel very familiar to me. Like feel very much
Mhm.
like this is not something new I have to learn, even though I'm going to be 50, right? Like I'm much older than the people that are around me and are
Interesting.
in this space. But this was my jam. This is how we communicated. We did text. Like we didn't even have images or videos or anything. We literally just had text and we would make little creatures out of our computer keys. And so it's like, this isn't that different now. I mean, if you think about X/Twitter, like we're still using text as a way to communicate. Moving forward, I don't know. Actually, I was thinking about this morning about AI and how maybe people who are accented in a way that doesn't provide them access, maybe they're going to be able to use AI where they speak into something and then they get some other accented voice coming on the other end, and how that's going to be a huge unlock for people who maybe were born in certain areas and that are accented a different way than
Yeah.
what's maybe necessarily popular or thought of as prestigious, right? Like as humans, we give some affluence and education to some accents. We attribute that to
That
some
is so
accents.
true. But only in some places. It's funny. I read this somewhere. It's like in these are, I saw a map of like in these countries, these are the top other accents that could get you basically Like it's like things that you don't understand. Like in the UK, in the US, a UK accent, you're already like elevated to some level. But in the
That's
UK,
right.
you could just be a guy at the bar or something.
Absolutely true. And so, in the same way, like ChatGPT allows people who are not native English speakers, right? Because still the language of the internet is English, for
Yeah.
better or for worse. I don't know if that's going to change. I don't know.
Interesting. Wow.
Something to think about. But
How
for
do
now,
you plan the future of of the company in your like roadmap?
oh boy, from which angle should we talk about?
Like
From the
you have
community
to,
angle?
well, you have to know what people want before they kind of know what they want.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the nice part about doing this, in that none of the way the community or the company has been guided so far has been me guessing or our founder team guessing. It's like being in deep relationship with our admins, with our community founders, and being able to just watch the data of what's popular, what are people using, what are people doing, what wallets are they using, what chains they using, what token types are they using, what mini apps, we have a whole app marketplace, like what apps are they
Oh,
installing.
interesting. What type of
um,
apps are there?
yeah, so we have an app marketplace. So with Collab.land, you can install Collab.land the bot. And then once you install the Collab.land the bot, then you have your opportunity to customize your Collab.land experience. So we have like a complex roles, if you need complex roles for your community. If you want to have kudos, which are like verifiable credentials. So if I want to give you, Charlie, you did an amazing job on
Yeah.
this podcast today. I want to send you a verifiable credential, which is pretty much an off-chain NFT that you can mint at your leisure. It's not public to everybody until you make it public, but it's cryptographically shows that I, as an admin for a community, gave it to you as a member of a community. We have that. We have POAP integrations. I don't know if you're familiar with POAPs, but it's a proof of attendance. And so if you show up to my town hall, if you show up to my
Yeah.
Twitter Spaces, if you show up to my IRL event, then I'm going to give you a proof that you showed up to that. We have snapshot integration for voting. Yeah, I mean,
Oh my
lots of
God.
different. We have meme contests.
That's
We
unbelievable.
have a chain patrol, which is like a security app if you want to add additional security to your server. So we have all kinds of different apps that people can use to customize their communities. And actually, that came from the fact that we have so many different types of communities. Like, you cannot just say community and that means quote unquote community, and that's going to be one thing. Like, we also need to recognize there's DeFi communities, which have totally different interests. There
Oh
are
yeah.
yeah, DAOs have totally different interests focused around government, NFT communities, gaming communities,
Oh
where
yeah.
they want to get together and get into a guild together and take on some challenges or some quests together. Like, every type of community that's a crypto community, even we're large enough now, which is really maybe the alpha. We're large enough now that we have so much diversity amongst the different types of people that are coming together, that there really kind of is beginning to be something for everybody. I mean, McLaren, for example, you can join that community because you have a McLaren NFT, but everybody in that community is talking about racing,
They all,
right?
yeah, yeah, they all have common interests.
They have a common
All this
interest in
data.
that. Yeah, they have a common interest that they're interested in racing, but they're not talking about the NFT. They're not talking about the floor price of the NFT or who's trading the NFT or the trading volume of the NFT or what's coming up for the NFT or how the NFT is going to interact with, metaverse A or metaverse B. They're literally talking about what they probably would have wanted to talk about anywhere else, which is F1 and
I
racing.
love that. That's so cool.
So it adds this extra layer, I will say, of now I have some skin in the game. Now I have some ownership. Now I have some influence, some opinion here. This is a brand I really like. And this is why we see so many brands coming into the space. I mean, we'll see more coming in the bull market, of course, and some are still waiting and working on a strategy now, but there are also plenty that are joining now. I think people are beginning to see that in this world
Yep.
where so, web 2, right? You're also a content
Waiting for
creator.
that watershed moment. That's what everyone's waiting for that crazy watershed moment. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and coming on the show today and teaching us what you have going on.
Thank you so much. Gosh, I could have gone for
I
even
know.
longer. I think this is a lot of fun. I hope our paths cross again.
I'm really excited to have on the show to get on the show today. And a lot of times we get guests who are new to me. I don't know them yet, and you guys experience us becoming friends over the show. And then we have people that I've known for a while, folks that I've been in the trenches with. We've done some things together and everything. I'm really excited to introduce Ross Plummer on the show today, the CEO of Yokai. Ross, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey Charlie, thanks for having me here. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited because you've been in the trenches for the past, I don't know, so year or so with Yokai,
That's
building
right.
out, going pivoting from one company. It started as WeFuzz, turning into Yokai, and there's a few different lessons here. We're going to talk about today, like the Web3 security infrastructure, how Yokai is solving that, how you're bringing together hackers and people that need to test if their, a product or service or technology or smart contract needs pen testing or different like vulnerability testing. But we're also want to talk about how you guys went from a company that hadn't even launched yet and you had to pivot, as you're building your company, which almost most companies today that we never see actually launch fail at that stage where they launch a product or an idea and halfway through building it before they launch they realize that they have to change and they're afraid to do so and they fail. like at let's kind of dive deep into that a little bit, Ross. Like, at what point did you realize that there's this now like big moment for the company and you have to steer this ship into where Yokai is today?
Yeah, thanks. I actually like that introduction because I was just sitting there thinking, suddenly feeling really proud of myself for pivoting, and I hadn't really considered that. Yeah, of course, a lot of people get to that stage, and um, it wasn't by dumb luck. So we started WeFuzz. We started as a DAO. We're going to be the first hacker DAO. This is great, and we're really going to make inroads into Web3 security. We're going to have a practice and an approach that everyone in Web3 is going to get, and everyone's going to like it. And it will be completely tokenized, completely autonomous, first through the door, and everything like that. And Chai, our CTO, he's a genius, and
Brilliant.
he's building the product. And
And Ranjit.
Ranjit too, and Ranjit and Chai have got this, and it's looking great. And I come on board, and we have pre-seed investment, and we decided to let's just for some diligence, let's take a deep dive into the market, and into cybersecurity market, Web 2, Web 3, the whole thing. Let's take an agnostic look at it. And we started to uncover, because we had some problems that we were trying to solve anyway with the DAO, and we started to uncover other problems, bigger problems, headline issues that we saw with the industry. And we had to start to ask ourselves, are we solving these bigger problems, or are we contributing to them? So I suppose the big three were, as follows. First of all, security is a booming industry. Cybersecurity is a booming industry, and that should be no surprise. The systems that we're creating are more and more complex with the explosion of blockchains, Web3, and everything out beyond the other side. But it's also overwhelmed. So if you look at, Microsoft have said that they need to make a 250,000 cybersecurity hires by 2025.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. And even if you successfully make those hires, there's going to be junior people. Like, you can't make a 250,000 senior, well-seasoned hires. So you're going to flood the system with a 250,000 junior hires. And I don't know what that looks like, but we all know that you reach critical mass on certain teams and it becomes inefficient. So if you've got that many, even if you manage to make that many hires, and God knows how big your HR teams need to get that done, that's a thing. That's an issue.
Scaling security teams is an impossible task.
Right. It's unscalable. And then we looked at, and this is if the industry carries on. This was the strategy based on an industry if it carries on in the direction it's carrying. And then we're pulling up other data, and we were coming across alarming things like India expects to have 1.5 million cybersecurity vacancies by the end of 2025, start of 26. And this isn't a regional problem. Like India supports the world when it comes to IT support. Everyone knows that. So it can't be seen as an employment issue on the subcontinent. This is a global tech infrastructure issue. That was the first thing. How is it that we're working so inefficiently with the talent that we already have that we're finding ourselves needing this many people? And then the next thing we discovered was actually this industry is highly fragmented, and this kind of feeds into the first point. How are we being so inefficient with the talent that we already have? And it was that the industry is highly fragmented. So I'm not talking about software scanners and everything like that at the moment, although we can come back to that because they perform an important role, but they're kind of dealing with problems of today because that's how they're built. They're not necessarily dealing with the challenges of tomorrow. And really, we're talking about the industry of third-party platforms, audits, pen testers, bug bounties, and there's dozens of them. Must be close to 70 of them, and they're all siloed. So on the demand side, on a software side, say a software organization, security team goes to a platform, you're only really going to get to work with the talent that is subscribed to that platform, and even then, you're kind of working blindly with them. You're not face to face with them. On the supply side, so the hacker side or the cybersecurity side. If each of these guys have specialities, they're looking for a program or a software security program that meets their speciality. They have to go platform to platform, silo to silo to try and find these. So you're talking about talent that can't find each other. And added to which, these platforms, they don't have huge interest in changing this up because the value extraction from the hackers, they're doing quite well out of it. Keep the hackers where they are, take your commission. This is a profitable business. So, and the third thing was, and probably the most ironic, was like, actually, this is quite insecure. There are all of these vulnerability disclosures happening on third-party platforms. And these triage teams within the third-party platforms get to decide what the software companies get to hear about and don't hear about. Yeah. So the flow of information is questionable, but also there's something like 700,000 reports sat on third-party platforms of how to break into software, and some of them are being taken seriously and some of them are being acted on, some of them aren't. But CISOs up and down the land were telling us, we want ownership of this data, we want ownership of these reports and these conversations, and we can talk about how it is that they don't historically in a moment. So how is a DAO fixing any of this? Well, we're going to generate a platform. We're going to put another platform out there, make it just that bit more fragmented, make it so that only Web3 protocols and companies can come to us, and everything else is bottled up and siloed. So we took a hard view of this. It's like, okay, how do we solve the inefficiency of talent? How do we solve the insecurity? And how do we give hackers a better deal?
Yeah.
And we realized the DAO was something that we were doing. It was tech for tech's sake. It hadn't been done before, so we wanted to do it. But if it doesn't solve a real world problem, what are we doing it for?
Yeah.
So go back far enough. I have a marketing and advertising background, and we used to call it digital for digital's sake. You'd always come across something digital that someone was doing as part of a marketing campaign, but it's like, well, why? Because you're not actually helping anything or solving a problem. You're just coming up with, hey, no one's done this digital thing before. It's like, well, okay, but how are you helping your client? How's it getting anywhere?
Yeah.
So we talked to our seed investors. We sat down amongst us and we were like, we need to, if we're going to put our money where our mouth is, or put our investors' money where our mouth is, we've got to come up with something that solves these problems. So that was the first realization. And I think anybody who's been through what I've been through, or anyone that's taking a look at it, the first thing is take a deep dive into the market and be honest with yourself. Is it solving the problems? So that was when we knew we needed to redesign what we're up to, and we moved from WeFuzz, which was a brand ID that was kind of limited in scope, and we came up with the Yokai network.
I want to pause for a second because almost every business at a point, whether they've already launched or they're at their very early stages, have to rapidly be organic and pivot. and
Mm,
and constantly be changing until they find their perfect product market fit, service market
mm,
fit, or whatever. Um, One of the biggest common like misconceptions is that the you're going to go to your investors when only there's good news. And a lot of
mhm.
entrepreneurs are thinking it's like, why would I go to my investors when I'm struggling and I don't know what to do? And they're going to think that, like, why is that a mistake?
That is a mistake because if you're lucky enough to have a good team of investors, they've generally got a lot of experience. And if you're lucky enough to have ones like we had, which acted almost as an extension of our team, um, then you're neglecting. You know, you've got more brains in the room than you think you have, and you go to them because they have experience. In Also, you know, in a case of relationship management, you don't want to wait until you've got a serious problem. Like bring it in when it's a consideration, not when it's a, you know, not when it's
I
a.
wish my 22-year-old me was listening to this podcast.
um, so it was actually they were the first ones to say it. We took it to them, and they said, pivot while you're small. You know, you're nimble.
Interesting.
Now's the time to do it. And we laid it out. They said it makes complete sense. And that was kind of that was the thumbs up that we needed. All those subsequent CISOs and people that we spoke to were like, absolutely, you know. And by the way, what you're talking about, what you're now intending to build sounds really exciting, and keep us posted. So the whole conversation was worth having, and having more out in the open than some people might think is wise. Yeah, put it like that.
So you to give a little bit of background, you the
Mm,
co-founder and CEO of still are a company called Protocol that develops IP entertainment and sells it to worldwide audiences. And you founded also a company called OpSec Corps uh, previously, and you developed enterprise and software for different companies that need to like have gray hat testing or just vulnerability and different types of software tools. But like, why you were kind of alluding to it? Why don't automated software tools? Why aren't they enough? Like, why do we need, especially in the world of AI? Why do
mm.
we need global people through like a decentralized network and then incentivize them and then offer like tools like what like why can't automated tools, especially with AI, be enough? Why do we need actual humans?
Um, Well, let's start with the AI. I mean, the AI needs to be trained on data sets, but it doesn't learn through each epoch if you don't have the human correction. The human correction is where it realizes where an anomaly is not an anomaly. You know, it only picks up um it only picks up the correct trends when it sees where the human correction came in. And of course, once you get it to a certain stage where it's black box, yes, okay, then it's more autonomous. I think that when it comes to the more common or garden software approaches like scanners, look, scanners are great, and they pick up on threats by reading anomalies, but they're only as good as the day that they are completed and shipped, or maybe as good
Yeah.
as the day that they were designed and updated. Um, if you if you want to get into things like 0 days, 0 day exploits are being designed and being discovered, and then vulnerabilities being designed and built for them every day. And they work on the supposition that, well, they work with a clear advantage over the scanner. The scanner was built back then, and the scanners can be updated, but
Sure.
you know, it's not, they're fighting today's battles, not tomorrow's battles. At least that's the presumed wisdom in the hacking
Things
community.
are constantly changing and
Right.
updating.
Yeah. So I'm not saying they're obsolete, and I'm not saying you shouldn't use them. There's settings where scanners are perfectly good. But I think in a fast-moving world, you need a combination of both of them. And you've got to ask yourself whether people like certification companies, insurance companies are going to take the
Yeah.
scanning results as accreditation versus you know, something that's been approved by a team of security professionals.
So now you're launching Yokai. And
Yeah.
the idea of yokai, and you're going to explain it, is that people won't know that they're actually utilizing blockchain technology here. You're building a product and service for everyone, different types of products and services actually, but you're like harnessing the technology on the background, which is kind of like what we've wanted people to do for forever. You know, it's like not build crypto for crypto. So tell us about that. Tell us like where the company is now.
Right. So we're harnessing various distributed and distributed and federation technologies to give us a network. So it's an open silo approach. We talked about closed silo. So take something like Matrix. You like instant messengers. So you've got Signal, Telegram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Slack, all of these instant messenger programs. And if you don't know where to reach anybody, you've got to remember which platform they're on, in theory, and go to that app. Now, Matrix came along and solved this, so that if you open the Matrix app on your phone through federated technology, it puts it to the correct place. You don't have to go searching anymore.
It's like Friends. There's another app like that called Friends, FRANZ, that I use too. It's like so you can see all your.
FRANZ. That's right. Yeah. Okay. Now, again, you've got a closed silo industry, fragmented. No one's communicating with each other, and the Yokai network allows us to work across all of these silos. It's an open silo network, and that's making it sound like an aggregator. It's not. It's a platform just like any of the other ones, but it works across all of them through federated technology. So what you get is a software company can download our software, and any hacker, any pen tester, any auditor can download the software and open a node on our network. And it allows a couple of things to happen. It allows the software company, so let's take Microsoft as an obvious example. It allows, although it's Web 2, Web 3 agnostic, it can be Solana as well. Microsoft can open a node on our network and set up an isolated network. And that means that any other security personnel that have a node open on the network can also be invited to join that isolated network. It means they have their own, I don't want to call it a shop window, but they have their own presence on a network for the first time, instead of being a faceless entity stuck behind a silo. And this allows a couple of, and the network that Microsoft set up, they get to host on their own servers. So a couple of things are happening now. Rather than putting a bounty out on a platform and having all the disclosures happen on a third-party platform, and then a faceless triage team let you know what's being discovered, or them deciding what's appropriate for you to know and not know. It's happening all on their server, so they have complete custody of their data. And it allows people to choose and build their networks. A lot of security teams know who they want to work with. A lot of security teams know what they want to do. And so on the demand side, you have a security team that can open a node on the network and build their own isolated network. On the supply side, you have hackers that can, you have hackers that now have one dashboard through which they can start to navigate a fairly unnavigable industry. Now, this comes to the next exciting element of this, which is not only can you so let's say you've got Google and Microsoft have both got their own isolated networks. They can throw a federation switch on their network, which suddenly makes the network visible to everybody else on the network. So now you can start to cast the net much more widely among hackers that have a node open on the network. That's the first thing. So it's no longer closed silo. Everybody has presence, and everybody can see each other's program and be invited in if they need to. But the next exciting part is, and we're launching this in a couple of weeks at NullCon, by the way, the security conference in India. In January, we'll be federation capable. We're gonna be able to federate, and this means that security personnel can use the Yokai dashboard to bridge onto their other profiles on different platforms, meaning they can use the API keys that are made available to them by virtue of having that profile, and that they can start to work across silos on the single Yokai dashboard. no more platform hopping, no more dashboard
Wow.
hopping. So it, for the first time on the demand side, software organizations can cast the net broadly using talent across silos. And on the supply side, the security personnel, they have a dashboard that makes the industry much more navigable.
It's like, why? It's almost like the way that blockchains are going too. You know, we had a world
Yeah.
where we just had Bitcoin and then everything grew. We have like hundreds of these different chains that some wallets work with some and some wallets work with others and
Yeah.
gas and you need all these things. And in the future, it's you're never gonna like make everyone use one because they
No.
all offer different intricacies and people learn on different platforms one time in their life and they become perfect at it and they're not going to go relearn another one. Same thing with like in the film industry, a script supervisor. He's in charge of like, or she's in charge of the logic of the film as it's happening in real time, making sure the
Yeah.
story makes sense. There's a very specific software they use, and there's about a dozen different ones. And people are very
Right.
defensive of the software because they learn and they have the whole career. These people make a lot of money,
Mm.
sometimes six figures or more yearly just doing this job. So it's the same thing here. These are people that are because a lot of people are like, well, why? What's the point? Why not just have one place? Well, that's not the way the world works. And we've seen like platforms that have like created seamless connections between multiple different types of like geographical locales that bring them all together that
Hmm.
are very successful. I find it very unique that you're also launching the company and focusing in India, where I know that your two of the founders are from. But like you
Hmm.
said, India is one of it's probably the fastest growing democracy in the world, the fastest growing economy in the world. You have like almost every top, you know, 500 Inc. 500 company in the U.S. Has a CEO that originates from the India or that region or whatever. So it's probably like again being ahead of the curve, ahead of the tide, ahead of the wave.
Yeah, I think so. And they've got the talent as well. It's a talent hotbed for this kind of stuff. So it's did we choose India purposefully? Um, I think we probably could have done, but Nullcon, the conference, chose India first, and we wanted to launch with Nullcon. So and they're one of the biggest conferences, and um, it made complete sense. Of course, it helps that two founders are
Yeah.
um, two founders are Indian also. I mean, obviously they're going to feel comfortable there. But look, this is the place where we've just said there's going to be this huge. There's going to be like 1.5 million vacancies in cybersecurity in 2 years' time. Um, Although that is a figure based on a projection that we continue on the same line. And the point about Yokai is we don't continue on the same line. We're going to head this off so that either the need for those vacancies go away, or that they're
Yeah.
easily filled going through Noka. We're working more efficiently with the talent we have, um, rather than hiring millions of juniors.
What roles are there for other people in cybersecurity? Because it's like a perfect hybrid. If you come from IT and tech or finance and you know crypto and have worked in crypto for some time, it's like a perfect place for you to land potentially. What other types of roles are there other than engineers and developers?
I mean, in it depend. So, um, you know, pen testers in Web 2, auditors in Web 3. A lot of, if you take
Account
our
executive?
founder, account executive, you know, it's not just the sharp end. There's roles for everybody, and something I've seen recently. So I'm like you. I've got a film production background. I've got a marketing background. If you go to Cannes or Cannes Lions at the moment, it's all Meta and Google
Yeah.
and Intel and all these tech stands out there because everybody's moving out of certain industries and into tech industries. So,
It's funny. I
to,
was at Cannes this last year and it was like all sponsored by TikTok.
right, exactly,
Yeah.
and it's
I was
not
like confused a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
All
You're like,
tech
I thought I
companies
was,
everywhere and not
yeah, yeah, full of tech companies. I'd almost flip it. I'd say like what roles. It's not what roles are available. It's like what roles aren't available now
true
in tech.
story.
And um, a lot of the traditional recruitment agencies that used to work in marketing are now, they've opened their tech divisions, or they've been bought up by tech recruitment companies. So look, it's I'd say there's room for almost every skill set in there at the moment. The growth is that extensive.
Growth is a huge. Where did you guys get the name Yokai?
This comes from our chief creative officer, John Philippe, and he he just took a deep dive into everything. I mean, this is what he does: is keep his thumb on the pulse of culture. And we could have come up with there was all kinds of things. A lot of these companies, have an implication of what they're trying to do, and then a slight bastardization of the name to make it sound a little bit different. So there's a clear indication of the role, like WeFuzz. Fuzzing is a hacking technique,
Yeah.
and WeFuzz began there. Yokai speaks to the ability of this network to be completely fluid and to grow organically and to move where the problems and the solutions lie. It's a Japanese word that means spirit or ghost,
Oh, very
and
cool.
there's several of them. We thought it was quite fitting, sounded different, sticks out amongst the noise.
Do you
We're
uh
quite fond of it.
do you ever think about developing some content for Yokai where it's like maybe like some sort of animated series or some sort of like I don't know, to like in order to like teach people or get new customers or things like that? I know some companies are thinking of doing it.
I mean, Charlie, I follow your posts and I see what you'd put on Twitter and stuff, and you and I both agree. I think that content creation, monetization, it's all going to end up living in the same place. I also come from a world of branded content where, gone are the days where a global media buy is going to get you the audience you need.
Yeah.
If you can come up with a story worth telling, you can put it out there for free, and that spreads the message a lot better. So yes, I would love to. I would love to put that together. It's a nice idea.
So you have the company where it is today, and I know there are some
Mm,
like secret products and services, especially in the industry that you're in, you have to protect the good ideas that you guys come up with.
mm.
But what can you tell us? Like what's in the future? What type of things are
Well,
you guys looking to launch?
of course we're working with AI. Of course we're working with novel applications to make working with the talent we have more efficient. Let me tell you a little bit about chronometry. Chronometry is something that comes as standard on the network. Um, and a lot of hackers, when they discover something, and this goes back to sort of where the industry is at the moment, hackers discover something and they will report it to a platform or to a software company. And sometimes, and I've been sat next to them when this happens, and they're like, damn it, I just lost all this money. They'll report it thinking they're going to get their bounty, and they're told no, it's already been seen, and the hole has already been closed,
Oh
and
no.
but thanks very much. And a
Oh
lot of
no.
hackers have taken to posting what they find on Twitter as like almost a way to timestamp it. Look, I found it first, kind of thing. So chronometry allows you to timestamp your discovery and post it on the network so that there can be no argument about who found it first, when they found it, and I think this will be warming. This will be heartening to the white hat community to know that we're kind of looking out for them like this,
Oh man.
and helping with arbitration. I think if you go far enough back, there's something about the network that we haven't mentioned, which I like, and I like it because it stops it from being a competitor to platforms and really moves it into the realm of being more of a standard in cybersecurity. And so go far enough back, these security programs, they used to take place in-house, all of them,
Yeah.
and they used to take place before the product was launched. I always use the Microsoft Internet Explorer one because it's the most ubiquitous one, but they would perform, a modern day bug bounty on their product before it got released, and it would be done in-house.
Yeah.
And a couple of things happened. First of all, no one showed up for it. No one showed up for it because hackers wanted the kudos of finding it, and there's no kudos if the product isn't out in the world. So the best talent weren't showing up because you know it's a fairly low fee, and I don't get any kudos because no one's ever going to find out
Not
about
worth
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that happened was that the Microsoft couldn't deal with the spam, the triage. They got so much traffic. It was like, okay, we can't sift through this. We have to push it out to a third-party platform. Now, if you set up your own isolated network that's happening on your servers and you've got custody of all the data, and all the hackers and all the pen testers have opened up nodes on the same network, the question that of course arises, what's happening with the spam? It's happening. Aren't we returning to that same problem? And we're not. Here's the beautiful thing. If you know a triage company that you trust and work with all the time, ask them to open a node on our network. That's your triage support. We're not preventing any of that. So it gets to a point where if you favor the triage of a competitor platform to ours, invite them to open a node, and in they come. That's when we move from being a competitor to providing a standard by which everybody can work more efficiently, and everybody gets to use the network not only as a force multiplier, but as a more secure way and a more efficient way to secure these products.
So walk me through this. So you got triage, as I understand. It's the first time I've ever heard someone use triage outside of like a medical setting, by the way. So kudos to
Right.
it's great. I love when this
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
So
Good,
triage
good.
is, from my understanding, is like when you first show up to a hospital, they kind of like assess where you need to go and what the problem is and urgency and
Hmm.
all this other stuff.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
How are you using that here?
Okay, so a triage team is gonna white hats, hackers, pen testers, they're gonna be sending in their reports. This is what I've discovered, or this is what I think I've discovered. And a triage team are gonna pick it up, and they're gonna, at a first glance, is this right? Yes or no? Um, and the experienced ones will be able to tell quite quickly, yes or no. If it looks right, can I recreate it? Can I build it again? Can I follow these instructions and discover what they think they've discovered? And if they
Interesting.
can, then it passes the test. Okay, so that's your spam filter. Is what is being reported by the hacker real? That's the shortest answer. And if it is, then it gets pushed out as a
That's the
viable
most
report.
important thing because that's you said spam comes. That's okay, very
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And a ton of people will be reporting in. The network helps you limit that, but also um, it's it's like producing. It's
Yeah.
like, I like this writer and this, I want this DP and I want this VFX artist, and like, okay, so you want which hackers, you want which triage support, you craft your network. Um,
On like
and-
on the limited films that I've worked on, the five
right.
or six, my role is now be I've like never had a specific role that I was trained. The term producer is very broad,
Yeah,
but I've
true.
like found myself as the like logistical problem solver
Yeah.
slash like triage person. So
Triage. Yeah.
where in like
Maybe, yeah,
similar.
it's similar. In fact, I think I've done more firefighting in film production than I have as a producer than actually producing. So maybe I'm a movie triager.
Yeah, you probably
um,
are.
um, yeah,
It's cool
putting out
because
fires.
we jump from like certain industries to the next. You go from the content creation world, and now you're the CEO of like a completely different business,
Yeah.
but in a whole network actually. But what's interesting here that we've talked about for the last 35, 40 minutes is that it's actually exactly the same. You're taking your experiences, the problems that you've seen in different stuff, and you're like applying it.
Hmm.
So for anyone listening, and myself included, I think every 5 or 6 years we fall into these like ruts, whether we're burnout or we don't, where a side gig is not making as much money anymore as it once was,
Mm.
whether it's
Hmm.
personal training or even podcasting or your job is not as great. But you don't have to like let go of everything. You can continue to like fluid, in a yokai way, through fluidity, actually take those same skills and everything and grow your next company.
I completely agree. And this is a realization I came to. I mean, yes, the tech can be daunting, but dive into it. But experience and business acumen up to this point, it applies everywhere, and it's crucial. And as long as you surrounded yourself with the right people, if it gets really really tacky, I've got Chai and Ranjit. They're the techs on this. And as long as you construct the right team around you, I think that there is application from every industry into every industry. And I think that you'd be surprised what brilliance can come from people that walk into a situation from other industries. The
Oh,
common sense that they can walk in with, you're like, oh, yeah, damn it, you're right.
oh,
That's the common sense approach. It's
I love when that happens. I love when
yeah,
like there's like a problem and some random person
yeah,
with no
exactly.
involvement like comes up with the most like perfect
Yeah,
solution. That's like a
yeah, yeah,
sign of brilliance right there. I love that.
yeah, yeah. It is, and then we all have to remember not to be intimidated by the guy that came in that apparently knows nothing and just solved it. And
Okay, so that's a great example right there that you said is that, and I don't know how other people did it, but I'm lucky that I had that benefit of going to prison for a year, is that I
yeah,
learned how to like not like I learned how to be okay with other people having really good ideas, and then you kind of like bringing people up, and then you can bring yourself up by bringing other people up too. But most
mm.
99.9% of people don't know how to deal with what you just said. Someone walks into the room with a good idea in a business, personal, even relationship setting. How do you deal with that? And that's a struggle for a lot of people. Where do you get that humility from? So yeah,
I mean,
good
and I've been
lesson.
shot down many times in that situation. But yours, that's a much rarer situation that you're describing. What did you come out of that situation with that you were able to apply? Because that feels like a rarer skill set that other people don't have.
Oh man, I mean, one of the best skill sets is like you have like on the internet you have people trolling you all the time and they come
Right.
at you and they credit and they say things or create narratives just to like incite emotion out of you.
Yeah.
In prison that's happening 24 hours a day. Like
Okay.
people
Yeah.
create multiple week long practical jokes and they're not even jokes. People like do things to put other people into like positions that if you don't get out of them the right way, you're going to get sent to solitary confinement, your ass kicked or like kicked out of this prison to a higher level institution
Yeah.
or worse. So you're
Yeah.
like prison is a constant video game where you're playing the boss and you're like at the lowest skill level. And the best thing to do is like just stay out of the way, stay off the radar, and learn and listen, but don't let people know that you're learning and listening. The best way to go get through prison is to be dumb. Is to just act stupid. So I didn't talk about Bitcoin and crypto in there. I didn't talk about financial stuff. I was just the dumb kid. I drove a snowplow.
Okay. Just go slow, pay
Yeah, you just keep
attention,
it slow
act
and
dumb.
stay. It's a good lesson for life too. Sometimes the best thing to do is just do nothing at all.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's a great lesson. Did people ask you about it inside though? Were people asking you for advice on like, you know,
Yeah, it's different
financial
because
advice and
I was
yeah.
talking to Martin Scarelli, who got out a couple of months after I got out. He was the guy who did the whole like pharmaceutical raise the price on the pharmaceutical stuff. You remember a
Oh
couple
yeah,
of years
yeah,
ago?
yeah, yeah. I don't know.
So he but that's not actually why he went to jail. He went to jail for some like insider trading or something like that. But
Yeah, they got him on
he was
something.
telling me like when he was in, people were like trading altcoins in the bathroom on MetaMask and everyone knew of crypto.
Okay,
I'm lucky that when I went in 2015, it was like before that wave. So no
true.
one really knew what crypto was and Bitcoin when I was in prison. So I was really lucky. If I had gone in a couple of years later, 2019, 2020, it would have been a lot harder for me because I'd be like Sam Bankman-Fried right now. I'd be very well
Yeah,
known, and you don't want that. I feel bad. I don't feel bad for him, but I feel bad for anyone who is in an unfortunate situation in prison and they're like famous because especially if, if they've had no victims and stuff like that. I just it's hard. It's tough. It's tough to get through
yeah,
it.
yeah,
SBF
yeah.
won't get like. I'm lucky that I came out at least a little bit similar to how I was before I went in, but it
Mm,
fundamentally changes. Like you're like reborn as a completely different person. It's a shame. But anyways, that's you have to be
interesting.
fluid. You have to be
Yeah,
a yokai in this world. Business, personal, relationships, friends, everything. You could be married for 30 years. You got to be a yokai. You got to be constantly willing to be able to change.
right.
That's
And
the
it's
lesson
the
of today.
soul the soul and the body. Like your body's going to go through it, but your soul sometimes needs to go through it and just take it as a process kind of thing.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate you coming on the show today.
It's really nice to be here. Thanks very much for having me, Charlie.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time and enjoying the show today. Please leave a review, subscribe. We've been doing the show for such a long time. The whole team here at Untold Stories, at the Charlie Shrem Show, everything that we're doing, it appreciates just when you listen and you send us feedback. And come check us out on social media, and I'll see y'all next week. I'm Charlie Shrem. Keep questioning, keep having fun. Find that edge. That's the key. Find that fucking edge.